Don't you want it? 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 You lose your little mind. My dead lights.
Welcome to the Deadlights podcast, Mini. I'm your host, Mini Sam.
And I'm Mini Leslie.
Welcome back to us.
Minisode.
To us in our space.
Yeah.
You're back.
Comfortable. Absolutely.
You're back, and
I'm
this is the relaxed part of the show.
Oh yeah.
Where we're just cash.
This is tea. There's nothing else in
This is tea. Very true. This is tea.
Tea.
Only that.
Love is a four-legged word. Oh. But anyways.
Anywho.
Yeah. Welcome.
Welcome.
Back. What are we talking about today?
This episode is going to round out our discussion of the big three, as we've been calling them, which is the big three slasher movies. Michael, Jason, and today's episode, Freddy.
Freddy. And is this correct? Is he your favorite?
Of the three.
Among the three.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. There's a special place in my heart for Freddy Krueger. Definitely, first of all, his image stands out in my brain. As, you know, when you're like a kid and around Halloween time, they're always playing the classic Halloween movies. Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's just so many instances that I remember flipping to a channel and Nightmare on Elm Street is on, and just like some of those images just sticking in my kid brain being like, this is really scary.
Oh, yeah.
It's creepy.
I mean, it's one thing for our other two characters, Jason and Michael, to be carrying a single, like, kitchen knife. Mm-hmm. To have fucking all your fingers be blades.
Yeah. He is so... he's already ready to go.
Yeah.
He's
he's prepared.
Yeah, he doesn't need to pick anything up to kill anybody.
Dead? He's
dead. Yeah, so
he never has to shit.
Freddy, he never has to poop.
Yeah, he never has to wipe his.
Never got to eat. All he's got to worry about is scaring some kids in their dreams.
Ugh.
So for those who don't know,
Dream
Freddy
job.
Krueger was a child murderer, and he was arrested for being a child murderer. But because of a technicality in our legal system, he actually was able to get off on the murders. But
which plenty of actual people.
Real shit. Mm-hmm. But the parents of Elm Street weren't going to let that slide. So they all banded together and trapped him in a factory and burned him alive.
Whoa.
And now he's coming back to kill the kids of those parents who murdered him in their dreams. So his whole thing is just living off the fear of kids. And I think what makes him my favorite of the three is just the fantasy of Nightmare on Elm Street and the fantastical isms that we can have within these movies because we're working in dreams. Mm-hmm. And I remember, especially in high school and going into college, when I was writing a lot, so many of the things that I would write about would be within the dream realm because it was just such a fun place to play.
Yeah.
And such a fun place to create within because you have no limits.
Exactly.
Which, set in horror genres, that's scary.
So, Freddy was among the movies that I just couldn't watch because, like, it is in that same realm, you know, of anything happening to you in your most vulnerable state of, you know, sleep. You're not even safe in there, you know, in your own mind, which is, like, precious. And
it's so invasive.
It's very invasive. He didn't have to, like, it didn't have to come out of the fucking drain, but he did.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm everywhere, bitch.
And that's another thing, too, that separates Freddy from Michael and Jason in my mind, is this idea that, first of all, he's not wearing a mask. You see his face.
That's his face.
That's his actual burnt, disgusting face. You're seeing him... You can see his emotions. Whereas the other two have a mask. You can't see what they're emoting on their face at all. Freddy is enjoying this. Mm-hmm. He's loving letting these scares and the terror and the fear draw out, and you can see it, because he's smiling during this whole time, and he's loving scaring these children, and that takes the fear notch up even more, because oh my god, like this guy actually is loving this.
Yeah, he's a psycho.
Yeah, it makes it even and I think too it goes back to the performance of Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. He does such a good job with the physicality of the character, embodying Freddy, and really just being just like the evil.
Yeah.
He does such a good job of portraying. And of the three, he's also the only one that's in every single movie. He's every single Freddy in every single Friday or Nightmare on Elm
the
Street.
actor?
The actor, Robert Englund.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
Which is different than the other two.
Right.
The actors who play Michael and Jason change almost every movie. But he's the only one that has played.
So he truly can carry all that work that he's put in.
Aside from the new remake of the movie of the first movie, that was like 2010, 2011.
Oh.
Around Rooney Mara was in it. It was not great. It was not great. It was very CGI and not great.
Yikes.
That's the only movie that Robert Englund did not play Freddy Krueger. They got a different actor. Mm-hmm. But still, for a film franchise that has upwards of 10 films in it, for him to play 9 out of the 10,
that's amazing.
It's insane. Because he is... You do see his face. So you can't have a different actor.
He has a very prominent nose.
Yes. His features are very distinct.
I don't know if
tall,
I've seen
lanky.
A picture of his actual face without the makeup.
I mean, he doesn't look like Freddy, but he does look like Freddy. Like, you can't get...
I think we caught that.
We got that. Oh, well. It's a studio. Things are going on.
There's things...
Things are always happening.
Playground Social, everybody.
It's Playground Social, baby. But that's why you can't have another actor play him. Because the Freddy that we know is so now enrooted in what Robert Englund looks like. So it would just be so weird if another actor came out and tried to put that makeup on and we're just like, who is that?
In the same parallel, it would be like, we are so accustomed to seeing Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. So, 8 years into it, and they have to make 5 more other movies. They're like, we'll switch him to a younger person.
It wouldn't work.
No, and they've used CGI to make him look younger in different scenes.
I think, though, in Robert Englund's case, he truly loves playing that character. He truly loves embodying that, embodying Freddy, and I think he just has a love for that role that I don't think he doesn't want to give it up either, because
No.
Why would he? He is Freddy,
He's making bank, first of all,
mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure he can continue making royalties off of the movies.
Oh yeah, he doesn't need to do it.
No, but there's a picture that I have saved on my phone of him in him in costume, and he's holding a boombox, and he's doing this kind of movement,
mm-hmm.
and I just you can see how he loved being that character, even though he was presumably a really goofy kind of guy, and
everything I've heard about him is he's just a super nice guy, great to work with, and I've not heard a single bad thing about him, which is awesome to hear of these actors that play such horrible characters.
Exactly. Acting is never a form of therapy, and also the characters that you're playing are not you. So it is kind of fun to get into these characters that you're going to be using a lot of practical effects and a lot of cool shots and...
Well, and the fact too that he always has these finger knives, that changes how you use your fingers. Because you can't just go like this anymore, No. And how you hold it too. I've heard him talk about how when he put it on for the first time, it was all metal, the first one that he put on. So he was naturally kind of leaning like this, but then
Oh.
that became a signature of Freddy. Like that leaned on one side, that is part of the silhouette of Freddy Krueger. So
Well, the first movie that you introduced me to the series is what is it? The second,
the second one, yeah.
So like he's really not in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I didn't. Yeah, I would love to see the very first one to really see that kind of like.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, like how you like interact with yourself after when you have knives on your fingers, you know, you can, and how you play with objects too. And he's obviously trying to invoke fear. How does he use those finger knives to make screechy sounds?
Is he wearing a fedora?
He is, and
He's
that's another.
wearing a fedora.
That's another signature. It's like the fedora, the red and green sweater.
Is it green or black?
Green.
It's green.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And the finger knives. I mean, those are all the signatures of Freddy.
And it's just one, right?
Yes, just on
Edward
one hand.
Scissorhands is true.
Edward Scissorhands too. Yes.
Yeah, that's why I was like, but like.
Yeah, he just has one, which is he makes that lean part of it. So, I think for Robert Englund, there's definitely a love there for this character, and you can see it when he plays that role because he just commits so hard. And it's interesting, the Wes Craven, who made Nightmare on Elm Street and wrote it, he was inspired by this real life story of a man who refused to go to sleep because he kept saying that he was having these night terrors and that he was seeing his death. And so he didn't want to go to sleep. And he was like trying to stay up at night. He had a coffee pot in his room, which are things that happened in Nightmare on Elm Street. And eventually he did go to sleep and he died in his sleep. And that was like very moving to Wes Craven. He was like, that is absolutely horrifying. And that's where the story was born. And where this idea was born for him.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean,
whoa.
Creepy, first of all, just a creepy story. And then we go back to what we were talking about at the beginning, where it just like, it hits so close to home because it's your dreams. Mm-hmm. You should be the one that controls them, not something else.
And that's the thing too. Like, if you were being chased or something in your dreams, and you share that to somebody, they're always gonna say something like, "Oh, you can control your dreams, right? Like you can turn around and see who it is."
You're not going to die in your dream.
You're not going to die in your dream.
Yeah.
Like if you're falling,
right?
You can always wake yourself up before you hit the floor.
Mm-hmm. Not with Fred around.
Not with him. He will let you hit that floor.
And I think that just some of the most creative and fun kills that I've ever seen in slasher movies, and maybe just any horror movies in general, have come within this series. And we're at a time in the mid-'80s where they have to use practical effects, and it's also the height of practical effects because they've gotten so good to come to this point.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a lot of just really cool, imaginative images and body horror that's you don't really see much anymore. Yeah. It's really cool. It's really, and that stuff, I think, just I'll go back and watch some of those crazy kills that are, it maybe some of the later movies aren't as good story-wise and just, kind of silly. But those kills still, some of those stick with effects. Me. Yeah.
And that's the thing about these movies, too, is not we know that it's pretend. We know that things are being used for it to look real. And that is what's cool about it.
Yeah.
As opposed to imagining that these are actually happening. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah. It's fun stuff. And Freddy Krueger, he lives in the horror legends because I think that it's just something that's universally scary about him.
Yeah.
And when this came out, it was just, again, something that people had never seen before. Something different because Halloween came out in 1978, Nightmare on Elm Street, or Friday the 13th came out in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
This came out in 84, so there'd already been like this kind of surge of, they kind of already kickstarted this slasher surge.
Mm-hmm.
So this movie almost took that slasher genre and turned it up a little bit, kind of skewed it a little bit to make it different.
Yeah.
And it feels very different.
It does feel
than
different.
The first
he
two.
looks different.
It looks different.
He looks different. Like, he has scars. He is wearing regular clothes for the most part.
And rather than what we kind of talked about in the last two episodes, where Michael and Jason feel more just like forces, just, kind of like sharks. They just feel, they're not human. He's the first one that I feel like there's a human. Yes, it's this evil being, kind of demon thing, but we have a backstory here. We have a person with motivations, and it's the most humanized slasher killer that we have.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's interesting that even in his reality, when he was alive, he was still a horrible human being.
Yep, evil from the start.
Yikes!
Evil from the start,
and that is when these like evil, looming characters stay.
Yep, man. Well,
damn. Freddy, man.
Love him. That was kind of a fun, The last 3 episodes were kind of cool to just look at these characters, and
I feel like I've learned a lot. Just like I mentioned before in the other ones, this was something that I always avoided because I thought it was going to be too gruesome for me.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I feel like I kind of desensitized myself. And now I'm looking at these and I'm like, nah, they're not that bad.
No.
Because I've seen maybe psychologically even worse.
I think so. It is fun to look at these movies and be like, wow, these movies are so massively in the pop culture, but wow, like, it's clear why, because we see so many things that are in things that make us feel scared that are being made now, that were inspired by these movies. Yes. And they're just always going to live in the horror genre. They're just always going to be around.
Still fun. He made a really fun character.
Absolutely. Well,
I liked it.
And this is all about characters that are going to live on through beyond even just a movie or 2 or 3 or 10 or whatever.
I mean, to make such an iconic character, have you had?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's also like it's this lightning in a bottle thing where none of these movies started off thinking we're going to make a legendary character right now. We're going to like make a character that's going to change history. None of them did that. None of them were going into designing these characters like that. It just happened that way. You know?
I am pretty sure the person that wrote The Hungry Caterpillar didn't mean for that caterpillar to get so much momentum. So popular.
That Hungry Caterpillar is very popular.
Speaking of being hungry.
Oh, yeah, that is why you're bringing it up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone's hungry over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm trying to like quiet down my stomach because it's definitely going. Blah, 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 blah. Shut up.
All right, well, let's get out of this episode and go have some sushi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my name is Leslie.
Yep.
You can find me on Instagram at ColorMeLeslie.
And you can find me at BPPritchyT and also the Deadlights Pod.
Ooh,
that's us. Also check out Playground Social, which is the studio that we are recording this at.
Absolutely.
But until next minisode,
let's get mini spooky. I'm gonna come and kill you with my one cool hand.